8-cylinder A-Class has been a lot of fun this week, and not just because we got to use the CUDA from a few videos ago, but because I discovered these Ferraris with their little 3.5 and 3.6 liter V8s that just sound incredible. I was running the 1994 F355 Berlinetta a lot this week, but last night I had a great race in the 2003 360 Challenge Stradale. I need to do this more often, but I made a wet weather build that doesn't use race tires, and it was a blast to drive around this race in Indy. And of course, if you're interested in checking out this build, you can take notes from the screens here or just download it in-game and give it a go. And if you find this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe for more. All right, let's dive in and check out this race. So I know my way around Indy pretty well, and we did qualify in first, but it's coming up on T1 into Indy, which is a little tight, and of course, there are going to be a few issues there. I was looking through the cars before in the intermission, and a lot of them had more speed and acceleration. I had a little bit better handling, which we're seeing right now as I get passed by a few cars coming into T1. Try to make some room here, have a little bit of contact, and then get rammed a little bit. Trying to get back on the track, trying to keep it safe, but we also get hit again. And so we're down from first into fifth place by the second corner here. So a little bit of making up to do throughout the rest of the race. So we'll see what we can do. Typically, wet weather races really get on my nerves in multiplayer because you can never truly know if it's going to rain during the race when it says it's wet. You know, sometimes qualifying's rainy, but then the race is dry, or vice versa. Sometimes qualifying is dry and the race gets a little bit rainy. It would be nice if there was some sort of, weather forecast, what it would tell you, what it would be like in, 10, 15, 20 minutes. You can kind of prepare. But I found that the best practice has just been to create a kind of a wet weather build, something that's, useful for some of these races. A little bit of contact I felt bad about there going around that corner on that Corvette, but it did get us the position, which I'm also kind of happy about. We didn't get a penalty there. So we're up into fourth now, finishing the first lap. See what we can do here against this RX-7. And he does have more speed than us, but I could tell from the previous laps that I think we have better braking, which we do. Able to outbrake him going into T1 and get ahead and kind of claim that position. So up onto the podium, we're in third place, but we still have some work to do, with first place being about 4.4 seconds ahead of us right now. And despite being, rear-wheel drive and a little bit heavier on the rear end, this car has been handling very, very well. It's been very easy to drive throughout qualifying and this race. I kind of just built it in this race here. I hadn't spent much time with it before, so it was fun to put it together, and I was really impressed with how well it did. And I think these engines just sound incredible. I don't have any performance upgrades on here, so there's no extra exhaust or anything. This is pretty much just the stock sound coming out of it. And we did take that corner a little too tight, and we pick up a 1.1 second penalty. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue going forward. Right now, first and second place do not have penalties, so that means we have to have a decent gap. But never mind, first place did pick up a penalty, so that might even things out if we get closer. So coming into lap 3 here, I outbraked that CUDA. I think they could see me coming, so they didn't turn in too tight. That was probably a little bit too aggressive on my part. If they would have kept on the line, we maybe would have had contact. But thankfully, it all worked out, I guess. The fact that you have cars with such different builds in tracks and races like this does lend itself to some interesting situations where braking zones are very different and straight line speeds are very different, and it can lead to some sticky situations, but luckily we were able to keep things clean through that. So that got us into second on the third lap, and so now we're just chasing down first. I kept that corner pretty close, but I kind of did a little correction to make sure I didn't go too wide and get another penalty. So coming up to the end of lap 3, starting lap 4, we are about 1.5 seconds behind first place. We've got 2 laps to close this in and try to get the win. I also noticed in the telemetry that this engine, basically you can redline and still get some great power out of it. Actually go beyond the red line, almost to the rev limiter, 9 grand, and you're still getting some good power out of it. So I'm pushing this thing well beyond the red line to try to get as much power out of it as I can. In first place is the F40 with an interesting livery. We'll see once we get closer. And he is in our sights now, about 1 second ahead. He has a penalty, we have a penalty. So we'll see, how close this can get at the end if we can get around him. Pretty tight on that corner as well. The boundary looked pretty tight there on my left side, but luckily we were able to keep it in. And he picks up another penalty. So he has a 2.6 second penalty to our 1.1. So that gives us some extra time if we can even just get close to him. So right now, if we were 1.5 seconds behind him, we would still take the place. But, of course, we'd like to actually get ahead of him, so let's see what we can do here on the final lap.
Final lap.
It's an interesting line coming down the straight here, going towards the middle. He's trying to get a hold on the inside, which he does. I don't dive bomb around that. So we're going into the next few corners here, seeing what we can do. Things are keeping pretty even through here. I think he has some speed and acceleration on us, so we're not gaining on him at all down the back straight. But I think we have better braking. Definitely able to keep it under control a little bit more, so we do get a little bit closer there coming into that left-handed turn. Through the S's back here, able to keep it pretty tight as well. Coming up on the last few corners to try to get around him. I'm using that good braking distance to get close here. I know he usually goes wide, so I do try to dive down the inside and just kind of scrape my way through a little bit of contact. I get a penalty there. But having watched some of his lines before, I knew that he liked to go wide at that final corner, and I thought I had a chance there, and so I took it. And we got the first place at Indy. So like I said, this car was just a lot of fun. Actually, both of the Ferraris I was driving this week were just a blast. There are faster cars, better performing cars, but these sound so good and have just been a lot of fun to drive. It's fun to be a little bit more competitive in something that I don't think you see much higher on the leaderboard very often. So if you found this video enjoyable, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until the next video, keep your racing quick and clean.